Chair, must fail.
Mr. Chair.
Darien Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first of all, I want to thank the members for their contributions, bizarre as some have been. I think it's been an interesting debate, and it is worth pursuing it, because it's one way of getting the national government's views on the record, and we've certainly achieved that, if nothing else, because what we've heard from National is they think it's okay for some workers in New Zealand not to get paid less than $12.50 an hour, or to be paid less than $12.50 an hour. And what we've heard is very much old National. And Mr. Peach, if you knew your history, in 1983 there was a Minimum Wage Act which was completely unnecessary, because in those days we had national awards that set minimum wages and conditions and penal rates and holidays and other things for workers. And it wasn't until National became the government in 1990 and they did away with all of that, that the minimum wage became important. So, you know, learn your history before you get up and spout about it. I think that, one of the things that Thank you, Mr. Peachy. I think it would be good if you did. What we're talking about in this bill is a changing workforce. So we may not have done this, the Labor government may not have done this 9 years ago. We may not have done it 15 years ago, because we have seen a change in the nature of the workforce, where more and more people are being moved out of the employment relationship and into non-standard work, which includes contracting, independent contracting and dependent contracting. I do want to be clear, Mr. Chair, that this bill would not apply to Graham Scott, the independent contractor employed by Bill English. He's been given permission to be paid $2,000 a day, based on an 8-hour day. That's $250 an hour. Now, the Labor Party isn't asking for $250 an hour. We're asking for a $15 minimum wage over the next 2 years. All this bill does is guarantee every worker in the country who's over the age of 16 at least $12.50 an hour, moving to $13, and then moving up to $15 in 2011. So I don't understand what's wrong with that. And I thought I'd just give some examples, and I'd like the national members in their contributions to tell me what they would do about a pizza delivery man who's employed as a contract driver, who's assigned to work 10 hours straight, with a payment based on the numbers of pizzas he delivers. And that ended up working out to $3.50 an hour. Now, how do you fix that problem? And a home care worker, and Leanne Dizelle that gave a very, very good contribution in terms of home care workers, on 24-hour shifts. These are the people that are looking after our older relatives in the community, looking after a man with Alzheimer's disease. She signed a contract with an agency saying she was an independent contractor, had to pay, or self-employed. She had to pay her own ACC, her own tax, her own travel, and got paid by the hours she spent at the workplace. At the residence of the person she was caring for. I've seen hotel workers who are employed on a contract basis and paid by the numbers of rooms they clean. And of course, you know, they've got to try and get 15, 16, up to 20 rooms done to earn anything like the minimum wage. That's not right. And that's what this bill is trying to do to fix it. And I will address some of the mechanisms a little bit later, perhaps, in the debate. I came across some cleaners who answered a Be Your Own Boss advertisement. They were out there, be your own boss, and they bought hundreds of dollars of supplies to set up their own cleaning businesses. And after working long hours, they found their weekly earnings came to less than $6 an hour. They are independent contractors. They're vulnerable contractors. They're listed in this bill. They are people who do not have the bargaining power. They are not the Graham Scotts of the world who have the ability to go and negotiate large sums of money for themselves. These are people who are trying to earn a living in a recession when times are difficult. And as I said at the beginning, this bill is simply about one thing, which is in this country, no one should be paid less than the minimum wage, and definitely should not be paid less than the minimum wage because of the nature of their employment. Now, Mr. Chair, I do want to note too that, you know, New Zealand is falling behind on this. Other jurisdictions are tackling this, and we looked at this at the Select Committee. Austria, Australia, France, Norway, Germany, Germany, Canada and the UK are just some of the countries that have protections or policies, Mr Chair,
Darien Fenton.
who have specific policies that range from recognising economically dependent workers by extending employment rights, to recognising a category of workers, such as that in the UK, who are entitled to minimum wage. They are not trying to make them into employees, they are simply paying them a fair wage. And in this area, there is both a higher end and a lower end. We've heard about the higher end. This bill is not about the higher end, and as I said, paying the Graham Scotts of the world. It's about those workers who are struggling to make ends meet and suffering social and economic hardship as a result. I'll leave it there for now, Mr Chair.
My